You have felt it, haven't you? That specific, piercing isolation that comes not from being lost, but from knowing exactly where you are going when no one else can see the map. There is a profound loneliness that settles in the chest of anyone who has been given a glimpse of the future before it arrives. It is the burden of the visionary. It is the silent ache of the pioneer. You walk among people who are content with the world as it is, while you are haunted, blessedly, painfully haunted by the world as it could be. You speak, and your words seem to bounce off the air, misunderstood, reinterpreted, or flatly rejected. You feel at times like a stranger in your own time, a traveler who has arrived too early at the station, waiting for a train that everyone else claims is a myth. If this resonates with your spirit, if you feel that quiet vibration of being other because of what you see in your mind's eye, then settle yourself now. Close your eyes to the distractions of the present moment. Breathe in the silence. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are simply experiencing the ancient, heavy, and holy weight of foresight. You are standing in the shadow of the prophets. Joseph Smith knew this shadow well. He lived his entire life in the tension between the harsh reality of the mud and the glorious reality of the heavens. To understand his life and to understand the calling that is currently pressing upon your own soul, you must understand this fundamental truth. Prophets are often misunderstood because they speak of a future others cannot yet see. The definition of a prophet is not just one who predicts. It is one who sees the structure of truth before the foundation has even been laid in the physical world. Imagine the boy, the teenager, walking out of the grove. He has just seen the face of God. He has seen the separate nature of the Father and the Son. He has received an answer that rewrites centuries of theological confusion. He carries the greatest secret in the history of the world in his chest. And he walks back to a farm, to chores, to a family eating dinner, to a preacher who laughs him to scorn. The disconnect between the magnitude of his vision and the smallness of his immediate reality is the first test of the visionary. You are in that test right now. You have a business idea, a creative calling, a spiritual prompting, a vision for your family, or a deep doctrinal insight. It burns in you like a fire in the bones. It is real to you. In your mind, it is already finished. You can walk through the rooms of the house you haven't built. You can hear the applause of the crowd you haven't gathered. You can feel the peace of the Zion you haven't established. But when you open your mouth to share it, you are met with blank stares. Or worse, you are met with hostility. Why? Why does the world hate the visionary? It is not because the world is evil, necessarily. It is because the world is afraid. The status quo is comfortable. The present moment, even if it is painful, is known. When you speak of a future that requires change, you threaten the safety of the known. Joseph threatened the religious security of his neighbors. He threatened the social order. He threatened the very way people understood their relationship with the divine. And so they called him a fraud. They called him a madman. But listen closely. The label crazy is often just the word visionary, spoken by a fearful tongue. When you feel that rejection, when you feel that loneliness, do not retreat. Do not let the silence of others drown out the voice of God in your own heart. This isolation is not a punishment. It is a preparation. It is the crucible. Every prophet, every leader, every soul who has ever moved the world forward has had to spend time in the wilderness of being misunderstood. Think of Joseph waiting for the plates. For years of knowing they were there, buried in the hill, just miles from his home. He knew they contained the history of nations. He knew they were the key to the restoration. And yet he had to wait. He had to work in the field. He had to endure the mockery of those who called him a money digger. He had to mature. The vision was ready. The plates were ready. But the vessel, Joseph, was not yet ready. Perhaps you are in your 4-year waiting period. You see the goal. You know where the treasure is buried. But heaven has said, not yet. This is the hardest kind of patience. It is the patience of the man who sees the harvest while the ground is still frozen. It requires a specific kind of spiritual stamina. You must learn to hold the vision without forcing the timeline. You must learn to be misunderstood without becoming bitter. Bitterness is the poison that kills the visionary. If Joseph had become bitter at his neighbors, if he had become cynical about the rejection, he would have clouded the lens through which he received revelation. You must guard your heart. You must forgive them for not seeing what you see. They are not blind. They are simply looking at a different horizon. This is the first great insight. Your vision is a stewardship. It was given to you, not to them. Expecting others to validate a vision that God gave specifically to you is a recipe for despair. They cannot validate it because they do not possess it. It is your burden. It is your joy. It is your secret garden. Tend to it. Water it with faith. Let it grow in the dark, rich soil of your inner life before you try to transplant it into the skeptical world. There is a sacredness to secrecy in the early stages of revelation. Joseph learned this the hard way. He shared his vision too early with those who were not prepared to receive it, and it brought persecution. There is wisdom in silence. Mary, the mother of Jesus, kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. Sometimes you must ponder your future in your heart. You must let it become bone and blood before it becomes words. The loneliness you feel is actually a protective hedge. It forces you to rely on God. If everyone applauded your vision instantly, you would rely on their praise. You would build your kingdom on the shifting sands of public opinion. But because they reject you or ignore you, you are forced to drive your roots deep into the bedrock of divine approval. You learn to hear the voice of the Spirit more clearly than the applause of the multitude. This is the gift of the darkness before the dawn. It is in the quiet, lonely hours that you find out who you really are. Are you doing this for the glory? Or are you doing this because you cannot help but do it? Because the truth is burning a hole in your soul? Joseph Smith was driven by that burn. God is my friend, he said. In him I shall find comfort. I have given my life into his hands. I am prepared to go at his call. I desire to be with Christ. I count not my life dear to me, only to do his will. That is the stance of the true visionary. The outcome does not matter as much as the obedience. The understanding of others does not matter as much as the understanding of heaven. You are walking a path that has been walked by the holy ones of old. Do not fear the solitude. The air is rare up there, but the view is infinite. As we go deeper into this reality, we must look at the mechanics of how a vision becomes a reality. It is not magic. It is a spiritual law. It is the architecture of faith. Faith, as Joseph taught, is the principle of power in all intelligent beings. It is not just a wish. It is the force that pulls the future into the present. But how does this work when the present is actively fighting against you? Consider the Kirtland era. Joseph saw a temple. He saw a house of the Lord where the veil would be rent, where angels would come, where the keys of the priesthood would be restored. But look at the reality. He was surrounded by poverty. The saints were destitute. They had no stone, no glass, no money, no architects. To the natural eye, building a temple was insanity. It was a financial impossibility. It was a logistical nightmare. But Joseph did not look with the natural eye. He looked with the eye of prophecy. He saw the temple standing before a single stone was quarried. This is the second great insight for you. You must live in the reality of the vision, not the reality of the circumstance. This is a dangerous psychological state if you are not grounded in truth. Can look like delusion, but the difference between delusion and faith is the witness of the Spirit. If God has shown you the temple, the lack of money is irrelevant. The lack of money is a detail. The vision is the truth. You are likely facing a Kirtland moment in your life. You have a vision of who you are supposed to be. Perhaps a healer, a leader, a creator, a peacemaker, but your current circumstances scream the opposite. You are broke. You are tired. You are in a failing relationship. You are struggling with addiction or depression. The gap between your reality and your vision is a canyon, and you are standing on the edge looking across. Most people turn back. They say, well, look at my bank account. Look at my past. I guess I was wrong. They let the physical evidence dictate their spiritual reality. The visionary does the opposite. The visionary looks at the physical evidence and says, you are temporary. You are malleable. You will bend to the will of the Lord. Joseph stood before the saints and said, Brethren, you know no more concerning the destinies of this church and kingdom than a babe upon its mother's lap. You don't comprehend it. He saw the church filling the world when it barely filled a log cabin. He was speaking of a future that was more real to him than the wooden floor he stood on. You must cultivate this double sight. You must be able to function in the world as it is, pay your bills, wash your dishes, show up to work, while simultaneously living in the world as it will be. You must carry the atmosphere of your future into your present. When you walk into a room, do you walk in as the person you are, or the person you are becoming? This is where the misunderstanding deepens. People sense this dissonance. They sense that you are not quite here. They might call you aloof, or arrogant, or disconnected. They might say, get your head out of the clouds. But you cannot, because the clouds are where the rain comes from. The clouds are where the lightning strikes. You must keep your head in the clouds, provided your feet are planted on the rock. This tension creates a tremendous amount of psychic energy. It is exhausting. Let's acknowledge that. Holding a vision that contradicts your reality is heavy lifting for the soul. It requires you to constantly reject the evidence of your senses in favor of the evidence of your spirit. Joseph felt this exhaustion. There were moments of despair. "O God, where art thou?" he cried from the Liberty Jail. Even the prophet, the great seer, had moments where the darkness seemed too thick, where the future seemed too far away. And what was the answer? "My son, peace be unto thy soul. Thine adversity and thine afflictions shall be but a small moment." A small moment. From the perspective of eternity, your struggle is a blink of an eye. From the perspective of the vision, the obstacle is a speck of dust. God was teaching Joseph to widen his lens even further. "If the very jaws of hell shall gape open the mouth wide after thee, know thou, my son, that all these things shall give thee experience, and shall be for thy good." This is the alchemy of the visionary. The pain is not just pain. It is material. The rejection is not just rejection. It is refinement. The loneliness is not just isolation. It is consecration. You are building a temple inside yourself. And like the Kirtland Temple, you are being built out of poverty. You are taking the broken pieces of your life, the crushed glass, the rough stones, and you are fitting them together into a house of glory. The world sees the construction site and sees a mess. They see the mud, the scaffolding, the noise. They don't see the blueprint. Only you have the blueprint. Do not expect the passerby to understand the architecture. They are not the architect. They are not the builder. There is a profound peace that comes when you stop trying to explain the blueprint to people who don't know how to read it. Stop casting your pearls before those who will only trample them. Save your energy for the building. Focus on the laying of the foundation. Day by day, brick by brick, prayer by prayer. The Kirtland Temple was built by sacrifice. The women crushed their china to make the stucco shine. They gave up their most precious possessions to make the walls sparkle. What are you willing to crush to make your vision shine? What are you willing to sacrifice? Usually, the thing we must sacrifice is our need for approval. We must crush our ego. We must crush our desire to be understood and accepted by the cool crowd, or the righteous crowd, or whatever crowd holds sway over us. We must mix that crushed ego into the mortar of our lives and use it to build something that reflects the light of heaven. The vision is expensive, costs everything, but it buys you a destiny that is immortal. Now we must touch upon the darkest part of the path: betrayal. It is one thing to be misunderstood by strangers. It is entirely another to be misunderstood by friends. To be betrayed by those who broke bread with you, who prayed with you, who saw the same angels you saw. Joseph Smith's life was a tapestry woven with the black threads of betrayal. The three witnesses, men who saw the angel and the plates, turned against him. His counselors turned against him. People he had pulled from the gutter and raised to high stations turned and sought his life. Why? Because the vision moves. And some people only want to go so far. You will find this in your own journey. There are people who will walk with you for a mile. They love the initial excitement of the vision. They love the energy of the new start. But when the road gets steep, when the Kirtland Bank fails, when the mobs gather, when the doctrine demands a deeper level of sacrifice, they stop. And you keep walking. And because you keep walking, you become a mirror to their stagnation. Your forward motion makes them feel their own stillness, and they resent you for it. They begin to criticize the way you walk. They find faults in your stride. They say you have lost your way, when in reality you are the only one still following the map. The pain of this is excruciating. It broke Joseph's heart 1,000 times. "I love to wait upon the saints and be a servant to all," he said. "But I am pained to hear of the dissensions among you." But here is the insight. The visionary must be willing to walk alone, even if they started with a crowd. You cannot slow down your spiritual progression to accommodate the comfort of those around you. You cannot dim your light because it hurts the eyes of those who prefer the twilight. This is a hard truth. It may mean losing friends. It may mean friction in your family. It may mean leaving a job or a community that no longer fits the size of your soul. Joseph had to leave Kirtland. He had to leave independence. He had to leave far west. He was constantly being pushed out, pushed forward. The fox has his hole and the bird has his nest, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. The servant is not greater than the master. If you follow the vision, you will be a pilgrim. You will be in motion. But understand this, the betrayal is part of the propulsion. Every time Joseph was kicked out of a place, he landed in a place where he could build something greater. Kicked out of New York? He built Kirtland. Kicked out of Kirtland? He built Far West. Kicked out of Missouri? He built Nauvoo. Each iteration was grander. Each vision was deeper. The pressure of the persecution squeezed the revelation out of him. If you are currently experiencing a betrayal or a closed door, realize that it is a shove. It is the universe shoving you toward Nauvoo. Feels like a fall, but it is a repositioning. Do not waste time trying to pry open the doors that have slammed shut. Do not waste tears on the people who have chosen to stay behind. Bless them, love them, but keep moving. Nevertheless, deep water is what I am wont to swim in, Joseph said. He learned to stop fearing the waves and start learning how to swim. He realized that the opposition was the medium in which he did his work. You cannot be a prophetic voice without opposition. Kite needs a headwind to rise. You need the pushback to clarify your conviction. If everyone agreed with you, you would never have to articulate why you believe what you believe. You would be soft. The misunderstanding of others forces you to articulate your truth with crystal clarity. It forces you to go to God and say, "Am I wrong?" And when God says, "No, you are right," that witness is stronger than 10,000 voices of dissent. This is how you become unshakable. You don't become unshakable by having an easy life. You become unshakable by being shaken and realizing that the foundation holds. You are being shaken right now. The world is trying to see if you will let go of the vision. It is testing your grip strength. Hold on. The future you see is real. The healing you see is real. The redemption of your family is real. The work you are called to do is real. Do not let the betrayal of the short-sighted rob you of your foresight. They speak of what is. You speak of what will be. And time is on your side. Let us speak now of the silence. The silence of the prophet. We often think of prophets as loud. We think of them declaring, preaching, shouting from the walls. But the greatest power of the visionary is often found in what they do not say. Joseph taught the brethren in Nauvoo, "If I were to tell you all that I know, you would rise up and kill me." Think about the magnitude of that statement. He knew things, glories, doctrines, cosmic truths, that he literally could not speak because the people were not ready to hear them. He had to carry the burden of that knowledge in silence. There is a discipline in knowing more than you speak. In our modern world, we are obsessed with sharing. We post everything. We tweet every thought. We broadcast every emotion. But the visionary understands the power of the reservoir. You must have a reservoir of truth that is just for you and God. You must have secrets with the divine. If you pour out everything you receive the moment you receive it, you dissipate the power. It is like opening the oven door while the bread is baking. The heat escapes, and the loaf collapses. You must learn to keep the heat inside. Let the revelation bake. Let it form. This silence can be lonely. You want to share. You want to shout, "Look what I found! Look at this beauty!" But the Spirit whispers, "Not yet. They cannot bear it now." So you hold it, and that holding expands your capacity. It stretches your soul. It makes you deep. Shallow water is noisy. Deep water is silent. Joseph became a deep water. By the end of his life, in the King Follett sermon, he began to open the floodgates a little. He began to speak of the nature of God, of the potential of man to become like God. He dropped depth charges into the theology of the world. But he could only do that because he had carried those truths for years. He had wrestled with them in the silence of his own prayers. Are you willing to be silent? Are you willing to let your life be the sermon, rather than your words? Sometimes the best way to convince people of the future you see is not to argue with them, but to simply build it. Don't tell them about Zion. Build Zion. Let them see the order, the beauty, the peace. Let them come to you and ask, "How did you do this?" Then you can speak. When the curiosity is awakened, the student appears. Until then, your words are just noise to them. There is a timing to truth. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. There is a time to speak, and a time to keep silence. The misunderstanding you face often comes from bad timing. You are trying to harvest in the spring. You are trying to explain calculus to someone learning to count. Have compassion on their timeline. Joseph had to have immense compassion. He had to slow his pace so the church could keep up. "I have to be patient with the saints," he said. He described himself as a rough stone rolling down a hill, becoming polished by the friction. He knew he was rough. He knew he was flawed. But he also knew he was an arrow in the bow of the Almighty. This leads us to the concept of the flawed vessel. One of the reasons people misunderstand visionaries is that they expect perfection. They think that if you have a divine message, you must be a divine being. They look for your cracks. And when they find a crack, a temper, a mistake, a bad decision, they use it to dismiss the message. How can he be a prophet? Look, he failed in business. How can she be inspired? Look, she lost her temper. This is the logic of the simple-minded. God does not use perfect people. There are none. God uses broken people who are willing to be mended with light. Joseph never claimed perfection. "I told them I was but a man, and they must not expect me to be perfect. If they expected perfection from me, I should expect it from them. But if they would bear with my infirmities and the infirmities of the brethren, I would likewise bear with their infirmities." This is a powerful negotiation. I will forgive you for being human if you forgive me for being human. Do not let your own imperfections silence you. The adversary will whisper, "Who are you to have this vision? You are a mess." Answer him, "Yes, I am a mess, but I am a mess with a lamp." The light does not come from the lamp. It comes through the lamp. The glass can be dusty, but the fire is still fire. Your vision is the fire. You are the glass. Keep cleaning yourself, yes. Repent. Strive. But do not think you must be flawless to be used. The future belongs to the brave, not the perfect. We arrive now at the final movement of this truth. The moment when the future catches up. The moment of manifestation, but also the moment of surrender. Joseph Smith saw the West. He prophesied the saints would go to the Rocky Mountains and become a mighty people. He saw it clearly. He planned for it. But he never saw it with his physical eyes. He died in Illinois. This is the ultimate mystery of the visionary. Sometimes you are the architect but not the inhabitant. Sometimes you are Moses, who sees the promised land from the mountaintop but does not cross the river. Is the vision a failure if you don't live to see the final brick laid? No, because the vision was never just about the building. It was about who you became in the process of believing. Joseph became a being of such light and magnitude that his influence spans centuries. His work did not end in Carthage jail. It exploded outward from there. The martyrdom was not a silencing. It was an amplification. You must hold your vision with an open hand. You must work for it, fight for it, bleed for it, but you must ultimately surrender the outcome to God. I am going like a lamb to the slaughter, he said. But I am calm as a summer's morning. How can you be calm when you are walking to your death? Only when you know that death is not the end. Only when your vision extends beyond the veil. Joseph's vision was not limited to the American continent or the 19th century. His vision was eternal. He saw the same sociality which exists among us here will exist among us there, only it will be coupled with eternal glory. He saw that relationships are eternal, that love is eternal, that truth is eternal. So, if he died, he simply stepped into a larger part of the vision. You must have this eternal perspective. The thing you are striving for, the healing, the success, the change, it matters. But it matters because of what it does to your eternal soul. If you labor all your life for a result you never see, but in the laboring you become kind, patient, wise, and filled with faith, then you have succeeded. The character you built is the victory, but often you will see it. The future does arrive. There will come a day when the people who called you crazy will quietly acknowledge that you were right. They may not say it to your face, but they will see the fruit. By their fruits ye shall know them. Eventually the tree grows. Eventually the fruit ripens. You just have to stay in the orchard. You have to stay through the winter. You have to stay through the drought. You who are listening to this, you are the keepers of the orchard. Do not chop down the tree just because it hasn't fruited yet. Do not leave the field just because it is raining. You have a calling. You have a foreordination. There are things you were sent here to do that only you can do. There are people you are meant to touch who can only be reached by your specific frequency. They are waiting for you to hold the line. They are waiting for you to endure the misunderstanding so that you can create a space where they can be understood. This is the paradox. You endure loneliness so that others don't have to be lonely. You endure the darkness so you can light a fire for others to warm their hands by. This is the Christ-like path. This is the path of Joseph. He walked into the grove alone so that millions could walk into the presence of God together. He bore the burden of the vision so that we could bear the name of the Lord. Your struggle is not in vain. Your tears are bottled. Your prayers are recorded. Therefore, dearly beloved brethren, let us cheerfully do all things that lie in our power. And then may we stand still with the utmost assurance to see the salvation of God and for his arm to be revealed. Stand still. Stand in your vision. Stand in the center of the misunderstanding and smile, because you know the dawn is coming. You are not just predicting the future, you are forging it. The world may not see it yet, but you do, and that is enough. Receive this witness. Let it settle into the marrow of your bones. You are called. You are chosen. You are seen. Now go and build.